What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today. We're going to, of course, recap just how our March Madness brackets are looking, and of course, how the NFL free agency has been panning out thus far. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm probably not doing as good as you guys. Where are you guys at? I don't recognize these backgrounds.
We are in Nashville.
At an Airbnb.
Oh, nice.
And I'm recording this on top of an ironing board because there's nowhere else in my room. So
I'm
for now,
in a
that's
chair
where
in
we
my
are and what we're doing. And we just drove in and like immediately set this up.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like crap right now, but yeah.
5-hour drive, but some slight.
Yeah. Nashville is going to be a blast, I think. Have you guys ever been there before? I have not.
No, I haven't.
It sounds super cool, like just bar hopping,
Yeah. The only thing is my girlfriend is under 21, so it's going to be hard to get into some of the bars. But I'm sure
it's going to be hard for her to get into some of the bars.
I am not leaving
Sophia L. Unfortunately,
I am not leaving her out. I'm not leaving her out. But yes, so if you guys hear chatter in the background, it's because we're in this Airbnb with 6 people, and there's going to be commotion. So if you hear stuff, like I can close the door, it doesn't matter.
They're about to go to the store. So
they're supposed to go to the store
soon.
Right, but regardless, it in the event, because we'll do like a live stream and stuff, so that might be a problem then as well. But Theo, how are you doing? You're chilling, just back at home. No more vacation, Theo.
No more vacation, no more traveling. Just working, looking at some draft stuff. Watched some Steve Avila today, the guard out of TCU. Someone who I'm still deciding how I feel about him. But
are you on guards right now? Is that like your
yeah. Well, I was past guards I got all like the first round locks done. So I was on to corner, and then I watched some of the main character corners, and then I got a pamphlet sent to me about guard play. And so, or offensive lineman play. So after reading that, I wanted to watch some more offensive linemen. So that's why I was watching Avila. And he is interesting. He is like, I don't think that I see him like sneaking into the end of first round in drafts, like early second. I'm not totally sure if I buy him up quite that high, but he's got some interesting traits for like how his footwork is and how big he is. Like he's somewhat interesting.
And I saw you like Porter. Made me very happy.
Porter's nice. Witherspoon is someone I'm really conflicted on. I'm trying to get more tape from Illinois.
Right now, he's probably going to be my corner 3 behind Porter and Gonzalez.
Yeah, he's interesting because he plays like Ramsey. He really reminds me of Jalen Ramsey just in the way he plays, but he isn't quite Jalen Ramsey,
I know what you mean.
He plays very arrogantly, which is fun to watch because he's blowing people up and he's just, talking shit, and he's got some really cool plays. But there's some times where I think that he's a little bit like late to get his hips around. Like someone will be running right at him, and it's like, time to flip your hips, dude. Like they're gonna run right by you, and then they run right by him, and then he flips his hips just a bit too late because he's like, no way, this guy's gonna run by me.
He gets burned downfield,
and then he does it. Well, in the Wisconsin game, that's the only game on Caddy's cut-ups, right? From Devon Witherspoon, yeah. And that's literally his worst game. So if you're looking at it from the Caddy cut-ups perspective, like you're gonna think he's trash because like a bad game is all that's available on him. Yeah. I mean, so I'm trying to find more tape, but the Wisconsin game is not good.
That's why you also have to the highlights are nice too. I like to watch highlights before I watch like the actual film because it gives me a positive perspective of a player going into their tape.
Yeah, you can definitely get a sense of what Witherspoon does well from his highlights, which is just like blow people the fuck up.
Someone's gonna take that out of context. No, but before we get into the rest of the stuff, I didn't even realize this. It's our 200th episode, just like nonchalantly.
Damn.
200 episodes. So I mean, that's pretty cool. Thank you all to everyone that's been listening for 200 episodes. Of course, thank you to our producers, old and new. That's Daniel is our current producer, our old executive producer, Alex, kind of one of the OGs. He just
Nabil.
got a big Nabil. Of course, there's Dom. Another OG is Scott.
Shout out all these
shout out Blue Wire. Shout out everyone that's been through 200 episodes and counting. But let's just hop through some more free agency stuff that's been going on. We were touching a little bit on what the Panthers were doing, but they also recently just brought in Miles Sanders to be their running back, who I kind of like. I don't think that's a bad move.
I mean, Miles Sanders himself is a fine player, no doubt. Dumb contract, I think. I guess,
What is it? It's like $25 million over 4 years.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah,
I don't have any strong opinions about it. Foreman's just as good and went for 1 year, $3 million. I see that as better. I'm not going to sit here and kick my feet and scream and complain because I do think he's good. And I'm not going to cry over paying a running back at all. But is it something that gets me really excited? No. Is it
right?
Is it a good move? Not really, but it's not the end of the world. It was fine by me.
I mean, I just think about it from the perspective of you're bringing in a rookie quarterback. It would be nice to have just some excess weapons around him. You're not going to have.
It's a running back, though.
We could have.
We didn't need to go spend $6 million a year, which is actually $1 million this year, and then $8 million for the next 3 years on a second contract running back who is kind of even been wishy-washy his whole career on a very good rushing team. Why?
I guess that's
it's a name. It'll be great for fantasy. Yeah. It'll be awesome for fantasy. Not a super real big time move, I don't think.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Theo, how do you feel?
Yeah, he's been injured a couple times in his career, and the Eagles' offensive line is just so good that I feel like you could put damn near anybody back there and have it be fine.
Me back there, man.
Yeah, really. There with the option game with Hurts and just the talent and the players overall on that line, what you need is home run speed because the path is paved. So, Sanders is a fun player going back to his Penn State days, behind Saquon Barkley. He's fast and he's always been efficient. So he's a good player and all, but you could probably find a guy like that on day 3 of the draft for cheaper. But again, we're talking on the margins here, and I don't want to be anytime you pay a running back, it's a bad guy. It's whatever. It's fine. It doesn't move me one way or the other. I do think it's good to invest in the weapons for whoever the rookie quarterback is. And we'll talk about the Texans who are doing this a bit as well. But although they just traded Cooks away, but you'll see what I mean when we talk about the Texans. But yeah, it does bolster the skill position group and his talented running back, take some of the pressure off of whoever the new guy is. So he doesn't have to, move mountains right away. Not that other guys couldn't have done that, but I get maybe wanting at least one proven guy in that skill position room. Because right now they've got they have Hurst, but
yeah. Maybe their game plan is to be the Eagles. Maybe they're we have the good offensive line. Let's get Miles Sanders. Let's get Anthony Richardson, and we're just going to be this incredible option offense.
Unthinkable.
Not unthinkable at all. It's not unthinkable at all to say Frank Reich, obviously he worked with Sirianni, right? So that definitely could be a mold that they're trying to build in.
But speaking of the Eagles, we talked a little bit about Theo. You said they're one of the potential winners of this offseason. And they brought back I wouldn't say most, but they brought back a decent number of guys in their defense. They brought back Fletcher Cox, Bradbury,
more than I thought they would.
Yeah.
I really love the players they lost. I don't know if I'd call them a winner of the off season.
Yeah, TJ Edwards was really good for them last year. Theo, I think you were a fan of Kaiser White, Marcus Epps, Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave is probably the biggest loss.
Yeah, Hargrave is definitely a tough loss, and it's time to see if Jordan Davis is actually the guy that you drafted him to be. Because last year, right, he could be a rotational guy, and it was whatever. He wasn't really making too much of an impact either way. Like he was a good run defender and all that, but not someone worth the 13th overall pick year one. You got to see if he is, and you can afford to lose one of your defensive tackles when you've got a guy like that waiting in the wings, and then you've still got Fletcher Cox and you've still got Brandon Graham, who they brought back. I didn't think they'd be able to keep Slay and Bradbury. Yeah. And that's why I think they're winners. Like, as many people as they lost, and they did lose some good players, they also kept like more good players than I thought they were going to lose everybody. Like, I thought, you get to the Super Bowl, there's a talent drain. It happens to all the teams. And they were actually able to keep things relative, like the corner group intact. And the front seven, I anticipate with their 2 first-round picks, there'll be another front seven player, a defensive tackle or defensive end or linebacker or something like that. But they've got the ammo to replace the guys that they lost, and they kept enough that they have the ammo to replace all the guys that they lost instead of not having enough because they lost.
Yeah, I mean, we were mocking them corner, I think, the last mock draft we did. Yeah. Because we were anticipating, at least one of Slay and Bradbury to be gone. But they kept both of those guys, so it will be interesting. And they brought in Greedy Williams as kind of a depth piece. So, yeah, I mean, we'll do another mock draft soon. And I'm going to start thinking about what they're going to do it. Because they have pick 10, pick 30, and they have pick 62. Those are kind of their first stretch of picks.
I had them taking Paris Johnson Jr. in my mock draft. I thought that was an interesting idea that you don't really see them take very much in draft in like mock drafts because they have such a good offensive line. But the right guard position is kind of a question mark right now. You could put Cam Jurgens there, or Jurgens. I can't remember exactly how to pronounce it. He was the center they took to replace Kelsey. So he could just move to right guard and you're probably fine. But what you could also do, because Kelsey's going to be gone. Like, he was almost gone this year. Kelsey's going to be gone next year, and then Jurgens steps in. I wonder if they would do something like that with Paris Johnson Jr. and Lane Johnson, who has suffered a ton of injuries recently. And maybe he's got a few years left in the tank, but he's probably not going to be one of those guys that plays into like his 40s with all the injuries that he's had. So they spent a top 30 meeting on Paris Johnson Jr. I think that's a very Eagles type of pick, is to, have a backup plan in place before you really need to. That's something Howie did with Hurts. It's what he's did with Jurgens. Yeah. So that is something that I think is on the table for the Eagles at pick 10.
I mean, the reason the Eagles have had, and there's a lot of teams, teams that consistently have good offensive lines, it's because they're proactively looking to continue to build the future of their offensive line. Dallas is the same way. We're like, oh man, Dallas, they're so banged up on their offensive line. But, Tyler Smith stepped up and had a pretty good season. That's because they were they were ready for that. They're like, okay, let's get this guy and get him ready so that when he needs to step in, he's good.
And they've got the best offensive line coach in the world too. That's the other thing. And Paris Johnson needs it.
They don't have the Browns offensive line coach.
Yeah, they got someone better. Like they took a rugby player and turned him into a top left tackle.
True. They did do that.
So if Paris Johnson Jr. is someone who I believe is raw, he's a freak athlete at the moment, but sometimes he carries his hands a bit too low, brings them out too wide, gives up his frame all the time. I think he could add more play strength, but he moves really well and he's got the perfect frame. So if you can take those traits and give them to the best offensive line coach, all of a sudden you've just got probably another bookend tackle. And if he's there and he's good and he's ready to start, then and you've still got a good player in Lane Johnson, it's not a bad problem to have because you can trade one of them or trade Lane or something like that. So
trade Lane.
Yeah. So I think that's a possibility for them now. And that's kind of a luxury pick that is now opened up because they were able to keep those two corners.
Yeah.
And they could still draft a corner. I wouldn't with the same logic. They can kind of go wherever they want with that 10th pick.
Yeah, I agree.
Good team opens up the flexibility to do that typically. I'm trying to think what else. They still have Gardner Johnson as a potential free agent that they could bring back. But do you think they'll probably continue to let him walk.
Gardner Johnson is not a key piece to the team. Like if he walks, like, okay, it's fine. The real thing would be replacing the pass rush productivity with that Hargrave left somehow, because that front four was so effective last year that, you know, it didn't really, I mean, not to say it didn't matter on the back end, but they had such good corners and such good pass rush that, like, you know, the safeties and the linebackers, you can kind of afford to maybe go lighter in that area. That's obviously what the Eagles think with who they've paid. So that is going to be the number one thing, is like, can you, obviously you're probably not going to get 70 sacks again, but can you find someone else? Maybe it's Cansey late in the first round. Maybe it's, you know, someone like that.
Benefit of having two first round picks.
Yeah. So I think that's the number one thing they have to replace, whether they find that in the draft or free agency. Like Gardner Johnson is someone that they got for a 5th round pick, and he was good, but, you know, they were still pretty good when he was injured towards the end of last year.
I don't think he's going to get some massive deal too.
No,
he just doesn't play the type of role that people like to pay. Yeah. I mean, he's very good, but he was traded for a reason. And if the Eagles don't sign him, he wasn't signed back for a reason. He's a good player, but I think there's a limit on how valuable he really is.
Yeah, we were talking about this with our boy Zach, right? It's like, oh, well, the Bengals might need a safety, right? They lost both Von Bell and Jesse Bates. Maybe they go after a guy like Gardner Johnson, but he's kind of like this safety slot corner hybrid. He's not like a true one high safety in the same way.
Look, man,
like,
here's what I know about slot corners. The NFL does not care about slot corners. You can be the best slot corner of all time. Pro Football Focus can be like a 95 grade. You can end with 20 interceptions and you will be getting a 3-year, $12 million contract. It does not matter what you do. It's just, I mean, it's the least valued position outside of like kicker or punter. Teams will pay a running back before they pay a slot corner.
Yeah. Mike Hilton's managed to stay around for a while. Nate Hobbs, those guys are good. But like, yeah, you're right. They're not going to get some massive deal.
Yeah, so they can afford, like Marcus Epps as well. Like these are fine players and everything, but they're not someone that, it's not like they never miss a tackle, or they, you know, are so rangy over the top, like they can just erase an entire side of the field. They never blow coverages. Like they're fine players, but they're not like irreplaceable.
They don't have the nickname Big Play Slay, you know, like
they're not outside corners. And Mike Hilton, for example, $6 million a year right now.
Yeah,
that's this guy. Like they don't pay these guys ever.
Unfortunate.
And they don't pay safeties really. Now, I thought Cincinnati, if we want to transition into them a little bit, I thought Cincinnati had an interesting offseason. They lost 3 pretty major guys, maybe not major, but serious starters for them. And I don't disagree. I think push comes to shove, Cincinnati is not a rich team, and they need to prepare themselves to pay T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. That's all coming up. If I'm them and I'm looking at a Jesse Bates $64 million contract, I'm not signing that. Safety is a position that you've been preparing to replace, and it's one of the cheapest and easiest to replace. There's probably more serviceable safeties than any other position in the league. Now, you could sit down and argue that maybe Hayden Hurst, you would have signed him for the $7 million, but tight end's another position where if you just want a guy who can go out and do his job, findable. Von Bell, I maybe would have kept him for the price that he went for. Now I'm saying that as somebody who is a fan of a team that did pay Von Bell that price, and he's a Buckeye, so we're really biased about Von Bell.
Matt's like, me personally, I would have done that. Yes,
I think that was a great move. And same thing with Hayden Hurst, who was a Gamecock and is now on my team.
Jesus
Both
Christ.
Those guys are amazing.
Matt, wait. I just want to say this about Matt. Matt, the number one most accurate take is like Matt's just weird personal like agenda players. It is truly amazing how often you get shit right just because they like went to Ohio. It drives me fucking crazy. Like your TikTok video where you're like, oh yeah, you can bet on Virginia to lose because my mom went to like has a Virginia connection, and then it just like happens
and it hits every time. It has like a 100% hit rate. Like literally 100.
I will never forget the awards picks and how you had to stop yourself from picking like exclusively Bearcats, Buckeyes, and like other various like Carolina, Ohio players.
And
you're like,
I can't pick,
and your problem was like, yeah, you didn't pick enough of them. Like you should have picked more.
I know. I'm so mad at
and now it's like, the Panthers signed the Gamecock, and their two big signings were Ohio State and South Carolina, and they're probably gonna have like fantastic years. Like draft both of them in fantasy.
And if CJ Stroud goes to the Panthers,
and CJ Stroud, yeah,
he's a Hall of Famer, man.
So it's all just lines up for all the Ohio State or what Cincinnati players to like either stay in Ohio or be an all pro or go to Carolina or I don't know. Like
how early
why they have such main character energy.
How early can I bet on futures offensive player of the year for Marvin Harrison?
I wouldn't do that. He's not a quarterback, unfortunately.
Or he could win offensive rookie of the year.
No, I don't think so.
Garrett Wilson just did it.
Yeah, who was quarterback this year?
It's like Brock Purdy.
I'm telling you, and they would have given it to Brock Purdy had he played a full season. They would have done it.
He was about 2 games away from them giving it to Brock Purdy.
It's unbelievable. Garrett Wilson is like a top 15 receiver right now, right this second, like his rookie year. Brock Purdy was like a game manager for 5 games, and they're like, well, yeah, but I mean, he's a quarterback.
It's a toss-up.
It's a toss-up. Like, so how do we decide?
Do we give it to the better player who played more games, or I mean, they did give it to the better player that played more games, so we're kind of straw manning this like make believe argument about something that didn't happen, but
it's still fun.
We can still get mad.
No, because it was like it was a legit argument. He got votes.
He did get votes.
Allow me to make up a scenario in my head to be angry at.
Oh, they gave remember when they gave offensive rookie of the year to Brock Purdy? Oh, that made me so mad. Garrett Wilson deserved it.
Imagine if they had done this. I can't stand them.
I can't stand the thought of this almost happening. Anyway,
going back to the Bengals, they did end up adding Orlando Brown. And at first I saw this and I'm like, oh my God. Because I know Orlando Brown's like all about his money. Right.
He's all about playing left tackle, man. That guy,
bless him.
That guy, every right tackle in the league or on the team could get hurt, and they could say, like, Orlando, we need you to play right tackle. And like, I think he wouldn't do it. I think he'd stay at left.
That's so awesome. He doesn't care about the money. He just wants to be the left tackle because that's the harder one, and that's what he wants to do.
And that's what his dad played. Like, I think that's awesome. A big part of it as well. I don't blame him. I think it's so funny that like he basically got a trade out of Baltimore because he didn't want to go back to right tackle. And then when he went to play in Cincinnati, people were like, oh, it seems like right tackle might be the natural fit because they have Jonah Williams. And he said, like, in his statement, as soon as he signed, is like, I'm so glad to be continuing to be playing left tackle in the league. And then Jonah Williams was like, well, what the hell? And then he, like, instead of starting Williams and Orlando Brown, now Jonah Williams is requesting a trade because
maybe Jonah Williams should take one for the team and play right tackle.
Maybe everyone just wants to play left tackle, and left tackle does get paid more on average, I think. So he's probably just trying to get his money up.
So he must take a pay cut to play left tackle.
But that guy just loves playing left tackle, and I don't think it's a good or bad thing. I just thought it was funny how he is just so verbally committed to only to not playing right tackle and playing left tackle, even in times where it maybe makes more sense to slide over to right. And he played better. He had like the best year of his career at right tackle as well.
Yeah, and Matt, you brought up the contract yesterday, and I was like, okay,
you took a huge pay cut.
It's a little refreshing. I was a little bit skeptical. I'm like, is it that much of an upgrade? But for a cheap deal, like a big pay cut, I think I like that. Getting Orlando.
Orlando Brown is not a great tackle by any means. Like you could even argue he's like pretty average, but there's a lot of average players that get paid like the highest at their position of all time in free agency. And they got him for like what? I think 13th or 14th, somewhere in that range, like that's average per year for Orlando Brown. And you do have to, he's probably the best tackle that you could have signed, right? Like they have money to sign somebody. I don't know. Like McGlinchey is probably worse. He's a worse pass protector than Orlando Brown. So I guess maybe you could work the trade market and find someone else, but I'm not necessarily mad at the Bengals for investing in a guy like Brown in this free agency period. I just don't know who else was there for them to give money to, and they had to give money to somebody.
Well, I really like it. I mean, I think with Jonah, you could run the risk of him having a good season and then being on the hook for a ton of money, or him just being really bad again this year. So it's kind of a lose-lose. With Brown, the Chiefs were offering him way more money from the reports I saw. So you may be able to get this locked up and get the tackle position locked down, even if it maybe is somebody who's a little bit more on the average side. I think that's good. And to be able to just go ahead and get this money out there and then not have to worry about paying one more key piece of the team, it's a good thing for the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Ultimately, what the whole thing comes down to is, okay, you let Von Bell walk, Jesse Bates walk, Hayden Hurst walk. You've lost some dudes, even though you did get Pratt back, who was a good signing and all that. Are you keeping Higgins, Chase, and Burrow? The answer is yes, all worth it. If it's no, then that really sucks that you weren't more aggressive in the last stint where you'd have them all together.
Yeah, it's fine. I again, Orlando Brown is not a super great player, but I just don't know what the alternative was. And they didn't totally break the bank for him. It's not like the Chiefs who offered him like, I cannot believe he turned that offer down last year where the Chiefs offered him some insane contract that he obviously was not going to live up to. And he said no. And is making a lot less now. It's stomachable, I guess. It's the Bengals, it's offensive line. How mad can you like really be?
Right.
He's better than Lyle Collins. And if he's playing left tackle, a lot of the guys at the back end of the first round, if it's DeWanda Jones, or Wright, Darnell Wright, those are guys who commonly get mocked at the end of the first. Those guys are right tackles. So if he's at left, they might be in a position where they can either trade up a little bit and draft one of the or Wright or Jones, because Broderick Jones and Anton Harrison and Paris Johnson Jr., they may all be gone by that point. It would be really interesting to see them take DeWan Jones and just have the two like biggest guys ever as their left and right tackle. I don't know if they would ever do that. They may want a little bit more athleticism when it comes to like getting to the second level or whatever. But I don't know. That would if it was Madden, that's what I would do. Just because I like seeing two gigantic players on the field.
Well, Jonah Williams requested a trade. What do you think the Bengals could get for him?
Probably not much after the season he just had.
Like
he was
pick.
Basically dog shit, and his contract is like up soon.
I saw a stat that he led the league in sacks allowed.
Wouldn't surprise me. Like, he allowed one every Bengals game I watched, I think.
Let's say even somebody believes that they have they think Jonah Williams is good. Trading picks for Jonah Williams is like pretty low upside. He needs a new contract. So even if you're right, he's a free agent immediately.
Yeah.
Deals like that are low upside. Any failed first rounder who's still on his rookie deal doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense to trade for him. It's bad logistics, and you're almost always wrong about them being a good player, because if they were good, the team that has him right now would probably want to keep him.
We'll just go off PFF grade here for a second, but Jonah Williams was the 10th worst tackle in the league in terms of PFF grade of guys who played traded 50% of the snaps.
And someone's going to be like, bro, like low key, like high upside, low risk. And it's like, yeah, low risk because he sucks. No upside. He is bad.
PFF did have him as allowing 13 sacks. Defensive Player of the Year season for Jonah Williams.
Was that the most in the league?
Yeah, that is the most in the league.
What was second? Sacks. Who was second?
Second was Tennessee's Dennis Daly.
With how many?
Yes.
With how many?
Oh, he allowed 12.
Oh, okay. I thought
That would have been way funnier if it was like 4.
Yeah, I was like, what is it, like 3? Like
no,
6?
it wasn't a huge gap, but yeah.
Okay. But yeah, he allowed the most defensive player of the year type season.
But yeah, I mean, I think they're actually in kind of a good spot. I'm excited for this draft for the Bengals. I was talking with Zach about this in the car ride up here. I think you could go tackle, and you're in very good position to go tackle in the first. And I like the guys that they could go at tackle. And then what other position do you need? Well, tight end. Guess what? Second round tight end, there's going to be a lot of different guys to go get. Now, you maybe still want to sign somebody who's a little bit more reliable because tight ends take a long time to come along. But I think those right now are their bigger needs. They still, I guess they feel like they figured out safety, but I feel pretty good about them. I think the two strategies would be like either being super aggressive and restructuring and trying to win right now and putting together the best possible team you can, but for a short amount of time, or trying to keep your core players intact and then running it back as many times as you can. And while it's super popular to do the first one and to get as good as you can in one go, and it's worked out before, like obviously the Rams worked out really well. But I think that football has a lot of variance. I think I think with Cincinnati, you've already made the Super Bowl with this team, and putting all your eggs in one basket, it's like for every Rams, how many Bills are there? Where it just doesn't quite work out. It's hard to get the breaks to win a Super Bowl. So I'd rather give myself multiple shots at getting the luck. Yeah, the Eagles were the best team this year, I think. No disrespect to the Chiefs. I think they're the best team. And they didn't get it done. Yeah. A stacked roster. Didn't get it done. So
yeah, I think that they're doing the right thing with not trading Higgins, it seems like, and just the Chase Higgins-Burrow. Like, how far can that take you? As long as you've got those 3, you're a top 10 offense, and as long as you're a top 10 offense, you've got a shot to win the Super Bowl. So they have lost some people, and maybe this is not the best version of the Bengals team that we've ever seen. And maybe that's bad. Well, Burrow's on the rookie deal. I guess I'm still grappling with it, but I don't know.
But was this version of the Chiefs team? Do you think that was the best?
Patrick Mahomes, I feel.
Yeah, but like, was that the best iteration roster wise of the Chiefs team that you think we've seen?
It's up there. It was pretty damn good when you look back at it. I think I wasn't giving them enough credit, like compared to the Eagles, who I still do think had the best roster in the league. But how many, Chris Jones was a defensive player of the year to me.
Chris Jones.
They had 3 great interior linemen. They still had Kelsey. Like,
yeah, they had.
I guess we're just chalking up the loss of
Bolton
Tyree.
And Frank Clark, and like, I don't know. It was a pretty damn good roster with like a lot of all pros. So yeah, and yeah, I think that I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the Bengals. I think they've stayed about the same. Honestly, like I think all the gains and all the losses, they're going to be about the same as they were last year. I think Lou Anarumo is going to figure it out without the 2 safeties. I do.
Yeah,
if
I think that's
comes
a good way
back.
to put it. Do you need to spend $25 million a year on your safeties? Probably not.
Yeah, you have a good defensive coordinator. Speaking of other teams that have made moves on the offensive line in particular, the Texans extended Laramie Tunsil.
He's good. That's good.
He's quietly like the best left tackle in the league. Like he deserves it. He was so stellar last year. I don't know how many pressures he allowed. It cannot have been many. I watched him for a couple games and he just did not allow anything at any time to anybody. He's someone who's been good for a long time too. So it's not exactly like one fluke year or anything like that. He's consistently good, coming off a great season. I saw that he was in trade rumors, especially to the Chiefs. You saw that a lot, but that would have made the Chiefs' offensive line extremely expensive. And if you're going to be investing in a rookie quarterback, like why not? If you're about to reset your timeline on a rookie deal, like why not spend on Tunsil if he's really the best in the league? He allowed 17 pressures this year, according to PFF, 1 sack. So guys that allow the most, they're up there in like the 50s in the pressures allowed. So yeah, he's a great player that was worth extending. It's worth protecting your assets when you have a rookie quarterback. Like, a rookie quarterback is usually the ones who hold the ball the longest. You know, they don't really help out the offensive line for the most part. So it's good to have some good guys there, because his job's about to get a lot harder, especially if they draft Bryce Young, who's probably going to be holding the ball a decent amount of time.
Bryce Young's still goated, I fear.
Yeah.
They also traded Brandon Cooks to Dallas for basically the exact same thing that Dallas traded Amari Cooper for.
Oops.
Just dumb. Just stupid. I just think that's so stupid. That's so directionless. I think the Cowboys are totally year from year just like trying to figure it out. They're like, okay, well, what do we do now? What do we do now? Do you value receiver or not? Do you think that you should be paying a veteran receiver big money or not? They don't really know what they think. I think Cooper's a better player than Cook right now. I don't know if Cooks is he's definitely kind of in the range where things could start to slow down for him. Although, shout out to the trade legend. I think he's been very good for a very long time, regardless.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm excited for him overall for the Cowboys. Like, it is a good move. Like, ultimately, I think you should be spending at receiver, and you should have great receivers. So I don't want to bash it too much. However, I just think it's dumb with the Amari
in a
Cooper
vacuum.
stuff.
In a vacuum, it's fine with the context of you traded Amari Cooper for the same. Given Amari Cooper makes more money,
it doesn't even matter. Is the thing? It's like, okay, well then you're fine. If you just went and traded for another receiver, I guess they're not exactly the same player, but it's like no harm done except for last year, I suppose. But it's still dumb.
Yeah, but I would say that Cooks is probably the best receiver that has changed teams this year. Him and probably Juju, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So they did get the best available vet that you could get until DeAndre Hopkins gets traded. So that could change things. But yeah, he'll be a solid number 2 for them, I think. He is still very fast. good route runner. Yeah, very, very deceptive guy, and someone who can win one-on-ones opposite CeeDee Lamb or on the outside, really, like, because they like to put CeeDee Lamb in the slot so much. You know, Michael Gallup is a guy who can make some spectacular catches. He's someone that really has had some highlight reel grabs, but is he someone that's like consistently winning one-on-ones all the time? And then I think back of like the interception that Dak had versus San Francisco. I think this was Michael Gallup, and it was the first pick. It was on the sideline, and Gallup just didn't come back for the ball at all. Like, it was probably not a great throw from Dak, but I remember thinking, like, what is that wide receiver doing, not coming back for the ball? So it's like they didn't really have anyone super reliable outside of CD, and now they do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Gallup.
That's a valuable thing to add to an offense.
Reliable to stay on the field.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Hurt a lot too. So
there was a point where Noah Brown was a huge part of the passing game, and I
was it like Cedric Wilson out there, and
yeah.
they had to go pick up Kevontae Turpin from the XFL. Like, what are we talking about, dog?
Yeah, and Dalton Schultz fell off this year as like maybe he didn't like blossom into maybe that second star like TJ Hawkinson for the Vikings, right? When they traded for Hawkinson, he kind of was that number 2 threat that you didn't really need a number 2 receiver anymore, and the offense was better after that addition. And it's not like even Dalton Schultz was that for them this year after they hoped he would be after a pretty stellar 2021 campaign. So I don't know. Yeah, Cooks, I mean, he's proven it in a lot of different systems in a lot of different places. Wow. It doesn't seem to matter. He will produce.
4? Is this
so
team 4
I'm happy
now?
for him. The winner in this is Brandon Cooks, who seemed by all accounts to be miserable playing for the Texans last year, and rightfully so.
Which is too bad, because that's the place where he finally got a long-term deal. I
thought he liked being there. I thought that.
Well, not according to his Twitter account. He was like sending wide receiver tweets, like, and sitting out and getting benched. And yeah, no, he did not like it there at all.
Yeah, fair enough. No, it's great for Brandon. I mean, he was great for the Saints. He was great for the Patriots. Great for the Texans. And now he can be great for Dallas. I mean, it's just like consistently great, but he probably won't. Has he ever had like an All-Pro?
I would say consistently. I would say consistently good.
I guess that's fair. Consistently good, but like he's not going to go down as like an all-time great receiver, but he'll be remembered by this generation as just one of the dudes.
That's right. That's very true.
So real. And then as far as the Texans like weapons go, because they're obviously going to be drafting a quarterback with the number 2 pick. I mean, dog, they've got, what is it? Robert Woods, Nico Collins, Noah Brown, John Mechie.
Who's their tight end? It's like, he's got a weird name.
Jordan Atkins.
I don't know if it's still him. It's unless they're number 1 on their depth chart. It's even weirder than that. It doesn't matter. They'll need to be drafting a wide receiver for Bryce Young. Like it's pretty. Yeah,
they'll be needing a receiver
or
in the draft,
CJ Stroud or whoever it is at the number 2 pick. But I do like what they've done this offseason. Like they've gotten a bunch of guys who are a little just mid. Like they traded for Shaq Mason. And what else did they do? They've made a bunch of moves along the margins. I know they added Jimmy Ward and Robert Woods, who's not very good at this point in his career, but you could see what he would do in the Shanahan offense. Like if they're going to be running a lot of pin pull, a lot of creative running stuff that like brings the wide receiver into to do these crack blocks and you win around the outside. Like Robert Woods is the guy to do that, or at least he was. So you're bringing all these like players that fit the system. They're not good yet, but it's fine. You know, it's not like you're going to have guys like completely out of place doing everything wrong. Like it's going to run smoothly. Is the ceiling high on this thing this year? No, but it's going to run in the vision of what it's eventually going to be. Does that make sense? Like,
I think it does.
So I like that they're not just like, oh, we're going to be bad, so we're not going to spend any money and we're not going to bring anybody in because, or if we are, they're going to be all young. I get that thought process, but even though they're going to be bad, they're bringing in all these older guys, and I think that it's going to help a young quarterback, basically, is where I'm at. To like, if the team is not good, it doesn't have winners all over the place, but it's got a vision to execute, and the culture is going to be good because there's so many vets there.
I would have liked Brandon Cooks would have been a nice explosive piece to keep around, though. That's the
he just did not want to play there, dude. He was sick of it.
Yeah, I guess
you could just scroll through his Twitter. You could just like he was like sitting out games towards the end, I think, and maybe not sitting them out, but just even though he was team captain, like he was not playing for them, like towards the end, or not giving it his all. I think.
Lord. No, so it's like that's the only thing they're missing, that explosive piece. I know originally I was having them take JSN, I think, at 12. But I don't know. I think like a more explosive receiver would make more sense. Just something to give them some juice on the outside. And I don't know exactly.
Yeah, if you're looking for speed on the outside, this is not the year for you at receiver, I'm afraid.
You're just kind of, there's no Olave, there's no Garrett Wilson.
Quentin Johnson, I guess.
There's Quentin Johnston,
yes.
That's where they could go.
If you want one of those San Francisco style guys where like it's like a Debo, it's like a yak threat. You're probably taking Johnston or Zay Flowers. Maybe they take Zay Flowers ridiculously high.
I would rather have Flowers, but
I kind of agree. I love Zay Flowers, but yeah,
I was watching Johnston the other day. Johnston is he is just not a wide receiver. he's just an athlete, man. Like he's not really that good at all the little wide receiver things yet. There'll be times where like he'll be tracking the ball and the safety will be coming across over the top. This happened in the Kansas game, and it's like a jump ball situation, and he's like tracking it over the shoulder, and he has his hands like ready to cup the ball into his chest, and then the safety like rises up, high points the thing and catches it. And it's like, bro, you are 6'2" and you have a 40-inch vertical, like go get it. And there have been a couple times just casual, not even like watching for him, but just watching him and like his technique at the catch point is like, sometimes I just want him to go up and get it, and he'll just like fade away or, try to catch it on the run, even though like there isn't a yak opportunity, dude. Like it's a contested situation. And I don't know, he is someone that really would make me nervous as one of those Kevin White, John Ross like picks if you took him really early, if you fell in love with the athleticism. Not to say he can never be good, because he is athletic and like he is tall, and he makes things happen after the catch, and he's got the home run speed. But like, man, he's inconsistent and does some weird things.
That ball tracking thing is like, I feel like it's like such a bad habit. It's like a hard thing to fix, I feel like. Because it's like you have to switch your brain from like, instead of just trying to like follow the ball, to like you have to attack the ball at like, it's the first chance you get. As soon as the ball is within range, it has to be yours.
Yeah. I mean, he has the highest drop rate and the lowest on target catch rate of like all the first round receivers by like a mile. Maybe Zay Flowers also has a couple drops. But like, it's not even close to like
better. I think Zay Flower tracks.
It's like Jordan Addison catches way more of his accurate targets, and so does JSN, and so does who else? Anyone else? Even guys like Rashee Rice, who had some drop issues this year, catch it more often than Quentin Johnston does.
Let me ask you.
But he could still be the pick. But
you were low on Christian Watson, and he was okay
good
last year.
He is good.
Where do you stand on him, and what do you think happened with him?
With Watson?
Mm-hmm.
I think the athleticism just won out. I mean, you could just give him end arounds and he would
and boy did that.
and it would score. I don't know. I think that as time went on, I think early in the year, like he dropped that pass versus Minnesota, which got brought up every time he caught a ball the rest of the season. But there were times where deep balls looked inaccurate that I thought he could have tracked better. And by the end of the thing, he was better in those contested catch situations. I think his mentality was a little bit was better, and he was more confident catching the football. He was making some tough grabs, making some contested grabs. I think his contested catch rate was actually really high by the end, and maybe that's just a confidence thing for him. They started using him like at the beginning. I don't know if they just weren't confident that he knew the playbook. Or he wasn't running routes right, but at the beginning he was basically like just the end around and shot guy. Like he wasn't running real routes. By the end of it, he was running real routes, and he got better fast. So I do think that he's probably the better athlete out of him and Johnston. He's a freak. He's a freak.
He is really something.
Christian Watson
give him those end arounds, and I give him shit for it, but like, I get it.
No, you should give him you should just give the ball to Christian Watson on screens and end arounds and whatever you need to do. Like Quentin Johnston, I think he's not quite as fluid. Like when he changes direction, he kind of has, he's not as subtle with it. Like he really like
absolutely
puts his foot in the ground and does like this full juke move. And Watson can just kind of like get downhill, like I think a little bit faster without wasting much motion. And I don't think Johnston's a little bit too stiff to be that fluid, which is obvious. But Johnston can still be if Johnston undergoes like the same RA and he improves his route running and he's a little bit better when it comes to like tracking the football when he gets to the league, he could still definitely be a good player and all that. But right now he's very, very raw.
Who would you have higher if they were both in this draft?
Watson or Johnston?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't very high on Watson last year. I really didn't love his route running or ball tracking ability, but I do think that because he is the better athlete and the concerns are kind of similar, I would probably put Watson ahead of Johnston. And Watson went early round 2.
So at 12, that'd be pretty crazy.
That would be a high draft pick. I mocked them Michael Mayer.
Yeah, 12 is not a good spot to be sitting in this draft needing a weapon. Oh my God. Last year at 12 or 10 or so, that's fine.
Oh, Drake London got drafted at 10, right? Like
Drake London was 8, and then it was Wilson, Olave, and Jamison Williams off the board at 10, 11, 12. This year it's like this guy I have below a second rounder last year. However,
you draft. I think you draft like JSN, or you draft JSN and hope that he's like Travis Kelce, or you draft Mayer and hope he's like Jason Witten. And you hope that, I mean, those guys are super productive and, very reliable. And maybe that's their superpower. That's not quite the athleticism thing. So, but you look at Kelsey, I think about, not to get in just this wide receivers rant, but I've been thinking about JSN and how he compares to Kelsey. And it's kind of similar, honestly, when you look at JSN, and he doesn't do the spectacular things that like Garrett Wilson did at Ohio State, or Olave running by everybody, but he's just always open. Like, it doesn't matter. He just knows where to go to get open. And it's the same deal with Kelsey. And Kelsey's 33 years old. He's not like some freak athlete anymore. He just knows he's just sneaky. That's how Mahomes described him. And he's, twitchy to get separation in tight areas.
The JSN athlete stuff is overblown. People are wildly overthinking this one, I'm afraid. He's just really good at being a receiver. He just gets open. He doesn't take the top off of a defense. Who cares? Then don't make that his role. It's that simple. It really is. And if it was just, I've seen some people say like, oh, well, Ohio State is just so good offensively. They schemed him open and everyone else gets so much attention. Okay. I understand how you could think that. Ohio State is so good and they do have all these receivers. If they were just scheming JSN open all the time, and if it was Olave and Wilson taking all of that attention, wouldn't they put out somebody other than their least athletic receiver? They've got 100 5-star receivers all on the team. If they just needed somebody out there to go and get schemed open, they would not pick the one dude who doesn't have long speed. I promise you. He's just really good.
He's out there for a reason, and he's doing all that for a reason. So he's someone that I could get talked into taking higher and higher, like as the process has gone on. And it's like, he's probably wide receiver 1. And Mayer, the thing about him, if you need a weapon, or even Kincaid, like those guys are also just super reliable in much the same way. Like especially Mayer is just. Yeah, I mean, the entire offense flowed through him since he was like a young boy at Notre Dame. Like he was
a wee lad
since he was a young boy. Yeah, he has had over 2,000 yards in his career and set the record in touchdowns there because he's been doing it for years, and he does it because he's got some wiggle to him. Like he's got like head fakes at the top of the route. He uses deception, and he just gets open, and he catches everything. Like he just doesn't drop the ball. He mosses people. Like he's just going to be good. I promise. He's just going to be like a good player. So if you're at 12 and you've got a guy who you know is going to be pretty good, and that's, I think, JSN and Mayer and Kincaid I can get talked into as well. Even though I don't think he's the body type to be an inline blocker, but he transitions from catcher to runner so fast, and his hands are so soft, and he's an athletic dude. So I think that he's also a good option that maybe could go pretty high. But at any rate, I don't think that there's a Cooks replacement really that you should take at 12. No. But you might be able to find someone else that doesn't quite. I still
might just have them take JSN just because it's like. Regardless, my logic then and my logic now will still probably be, regardless of who you have at quarterback, right? They're a rookie. You want to make their job as easy as possible. JSN, I think, does that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
he's very quarterback friendly.
All right. Well, before we head out, March Madness has been going on, right? And Oral Roberts, sadly, has costed me my Final Four. Hey, UCLA, Miami, let them cook.
They will not be doing that. Miami, I'm so mad that Drake blew I was so confident in that Drake upset, and then they just forgot how to play basketball at the end. Miami, I know, I maintain stinks.
That video I had of just bullshit reasons to pick teams was that close to being perfect if Drake could have pulled it off.
But what were the other ones? It was Virginia.
Penn State beating Texas A&M, and I had Virginia losing to Furman.
The Matt personal how do you say it? Anecdote. Jesus Christ. I'm so
Bro
stupid.
Can't talk. Say bagel, Theo.
Well, bagel is just how I say it.
What is it? Bagel and hammock.
Hammock. No, hammock. That's how it's fun. Anyway, I'm not getting into this. We're talking about Drake and their inability to play basketball. But yeah, Matt, you can just, if it relates to Matt, it's got like a 95% chance of just working out. And Drake sadly blew the golden opportunity.
I feel like the real take is that Matt actually just has done his homework and he just finds a way to
I actually did watch some Penn State basketball, but my reasoning was entirely that I just like their guard who has the like messed up jumper that goes in anyway. Furman over Virginia was incredibly free. That's a terrible team that always blows it. That's like being like this strong, stalwart defensive team, which I'm pretty sure they are, is like that don't work, man. That's not a good idea for a long run in the. You need to get hot at the right time in March Madness, and they're just not like that. Except for the one time that they did.
I think that the Purdue versus FDU game was one of my favorite sports games that I've ever witnessed in my life. That was so electric. The biblical parallels, the like true David versus Goliath, biggest team in the nation versus smallest team, 16 seed. And to watch them all just beat the shit out of Edie and like force him to pass out and just like hope that they don't make it. It was such a simple game plan that I'm sure has been utilized on Purdue before. But to see it work to that extent and for FDU to be hitting the shots on the other end and just be in it the whole game. And you're like, oh, could they really do this? Is this really happening? Oh my God. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It was really an electric game to watch. Mm-hmm. And very, very, and it was legitimately like inspiring, honestly, like that all these little dudes could beat the Goliath team. Like I was feeling good at the end of that
Theo
thing. I was like, I just watched it.
Like
it's like I just watched Rudy or something. Yeah. It's like I just watched Rudy.
Yeah. That was hype.
Yeah. I mean, it was something special for sure. I feel bad for Edie, man.
It's not his fault either because
it's like
all he can do is kick it out to people and see if they could shoot it. They couldn't shoot it, you know?
Yeah. That shit is so funny, man. Oh my God. College basketball is such a funny sport. Short and line, it makes absolutely zero goddamn difference. These teams will be shooting 5 for 25 from 3 or whatever.
Oh my God. I mean, it's
such a cruel tournament too. Just like one and done. It's crazy. You have to play these games at like random buildings throughout the country, and it's every day. And if you just like make one mistake, you're gone. Like, and it's all your legacy is if you're Edie, because like a guy like me, I don't care about Purdue basketball. I've never seen Edie play before, except when he's in the tournament and gets bounced by like 15 seeds all the time. So he'll just forever be known as like this fraud because, you know, his teammates can hit open shots. It's a cruel tournament.
Very cool.
But it's fun to watch.
It is.
That's all that matters.
Anyway, we're rooting for Marquette because it's come to my attention. What was his name again, Bladen? There's a guard.
Oh, what is it? Alec Pierce's brother?
No, that's Princeton.
Oh, the guy that went to Gahanna.
Yeah, the guy that went to Gahanna.
I don't remember his
name.
Your
high school for those who.
Yes, I'm sorry. I should have given that context.
Apparently, Matt and I went to high school with someone.
He plays for Marquette. If you went to Gahanna Lincoln and you end up in some sort of sporting event, popular tournament, if you go to the NFL, if you go play college basketball at a high level or football or something, I will shout you out on the podcast.
And you're destined to be a good pro. And you're destined to be a good pro because Matt has a personal connection.
Dude, there's a 3-star defensive end who went to our high school who's now going to Cincinnati.
Yeah,
he's going to be the future MVP of the league.
Future defensive player of the year. Yeah. It's a lock. Yeah, we've got Coop Cheeseman, the guy at Marquette that I can't remember his name. Yeah, Cheeseman's a long snapper.
Probably the greatest long snapper to ever do it.
I don't know. That's what I can think of.
That Cheeseman went to your high school. I remember like looking at a game or something and like whose nameplate is Cheese Man? Who is? That's funny. That's very funny. I distinctly remember like that's a silly last name.
Jonathan Cooper, who is the same age as my brother. Actually, they played each other in high school. My brother had to block Jonathan Cooper, or not in high school, in middle school. And my brother isn't a pro. And
didn't go well.
I imagine.
Michael Cooper is, I think he's an edge for the Broncos.
Yeah. Jonathan Cooper, yeah. But the only thing, my most memorable Coop moment is always, I was a freshman and we were going over to like scrimmage the JV guys, but they were wrapping up some stuff with like the varsity, like some install. And we have this receiver, Trevor Sapp, comes on a slant, and Coop dropped from his, because he was playing like he wasn't playing end at the time. He was playing we had like safety, dog, and beast, and they would like rotate around. But he was like a dog / linebacker, and he was like dropping on this play, and Trevor goes over the middle, and the only thing we see are his feet go in the air.
Tough.
He was on the ground for a minute too. We were kind of worried.
But if any Northfield High School people end up going pro or playing in some big sporting event, also I will shout you out. But I don't think that has ever happened to a Northfield High School alumni. I'm sorry if I'm disrespecting anybody, but I in my life cannot remember a Northfield High School person going on to play in like March Madness or any league of any sort. It's not a real athletic football conference that in southern Minnesota.
But I think that's all I've got.
That's all I've got. So without further ado, Matt and I are going to start our vacation. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, happy 200th episode. And we will catch you all on the flippity flop.